Welcome to Schooled by Mr. Bascom. I have been working with young people for 27 years plus now, and I've loved it, all of it, even the tough times. And I kind of want to use this time to reconnect with former students, see where they are in their life, see the impact of their education and their time in my class on their lives and where they are now, and just see how they've progressed in that time, and hopefully share a couple of laughs while we're doing it. So my first guest is Angel Fonseca, aka Angel Gates, and he is helping to create something really special up here with Hudsy, a multimedia company that really creates all sorts of interesting film and material for showing the greatness of Hudson Valley and New York in general. And Angel went from being this skinny little kid in the first class I ever taught to really being something special. And I kind of want to talk about his journey from a kid at 161 to being my friend and being a man of some influence. You were in the first class I ever taught. And let's start there, Angel. Wow, we've never not known each other for the last 27 years. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at PS 161.
PS 161. Yeah, it's funny. I actually remember you. I feel like you were there the year before as a sub, correct? We will chatter amongst ourselves, and we used to assume that you was like a vampire because you looked like you had eyeliner, that you had natural dark eyeliner.
Yeah.
And you was pretty pale then. So I remember we would literally joke around like, "Oh man, look at that vampire." Yeah. And then ironically, the very next year you became my teacher.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you were not supposed to be my teacher, correct? I think a teacher had...
Miss Martin was supposed to be your teacher, and she had gone on pregnancy leave, on an extended leave. And I'd been subbing there for a bit, and they called me. It was like the second, third week of school, and they're like, "Can you come in and teach?" I was like, "Yeah," And initially there were 41 kids in the class.
I remember that, and they split us up.
And there was only supposed to be, union rules say 33, so that we were over the limit back then. And I had all 41 of you for about 3.5 weeks.
I remember that.
But by the end of the first week, it was kind of a trial by fire for me. I was still a rookie, man. I was 23. I was very green, and we figured it out together.
I vividly remember that time, and I think. And we're going to go into it, but I think it's because of the impact you've had in my life. But I remember how there were kids that were disappointed that they couldn't be a part of your class because they got a taste of what you was going to bring in your classroom. And for the students that you have right now that are listening, he would teach with a lot of passion. And I'm sure you're still teaching that way, just, PG, but I felt it, and I think all the students felt that because that was something new to us, and it's not a knock to all the teachers that were there or the teachers that I had at PS 161. I just feel that you were young energy, and you we really mattered to you, and I think we all sensed that.
That year for me was really special because I clicked with you guys, and then after 3 weeks when they split the class, I only had 21 of you, and to be honest, they did it really weird where I got to almost handpick you guys, which, I felt almost bad for some of the kids I didn't get, like a kid like Miguel. I mean, Milton, who I know you're still friends with. Milton, it was just sort of like, oh, well, I'm going to take these guys here. All right. So, unfortunately, he was one kid that maybe wasn't there. But I think you guys appreciated, and I appreciated it. Wow, so we got something special here. And after going through 41 kids for almost a month to come down to just 21, everything felt much easier. And but it was learn as I go. The one thing I knew really well was history, so I could tell you a good story and kind of carry that across. And then I was pretty solid at math, but there were some subject areas. Looking back now, it was funny. It was you guys didn't get much science from me. because
But didn't we have Mr. Turkel back then?
You did, and that was one of the first years where they started implementing a separate science teacher. And thank goodness, because you wouldn't learn much from me.
Do you still run across the room?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. When I went to school, most of my teachers were really boring, and I kind of learned from them what not to do. But one person that really was very influential on me was my dad, and my dad would be very animated when he was telling a story and acting things out, and he would tell stories with a couple friends of his in tandem, and they would move things out and like over exaggerate the movement. And I was like, I always liked that as a kid. And so when I was teaching with you guys, yeah, it was one of those things like I'm gonna run. And I remember early on, it was at one point we did some sort of a party. I think maybe it was for Easter or something, and you guys had to find stuff in the room. Maybe it was like our version of an Easter egg hunt or something. And I remember there was this older woman, and I'm not going to blow up her spot either because I think she's passed away, but I don't know.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and she came to the door all old teacherly, like, we don't do that here. We can't do that here. And I'm like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I got it. And I think with you guys, it was like a hell yeah. All right, this guy's on our side. I was a lot younger than most of the other teachers. The next youngest teacher was this, I think she was a kindergarten, first grade teacher named Miss Burke, and she was like 30 or 31, which, back then to me it was like she seemed so much older. It's just a few years difference, but I think that was part of it. I obviously I wasn't married or had kids yet back then, so I was throwing my everything into you guys. I had finished school back at the winter '92, and I couldn't afford to pay off my degree right away for a variety of reasons. So I was working this really terrible job before I started subbing and teaching. So for $6 an hour, which was dirt even back then. And so when I got the opportunity to teach, it was like, this is amazing. And when teachers would complain, it was like, what are you talking about? This is great. And you guys at that time, you were 10 and becoming 11 years old. And to me, 11 is the perfect age for a kid. You're not a baby anymore, but you're also young enough that you're still enthusiastic about things. You're not so worried about being cool and like too cool to learn stuff. And it just was a really good synergy between the youthful energy in that room. And I still remember almost every kid's name in that class and their faces and times with them. And me being young and enthusiastic too, and it just kind of worked. And it really carried me through. It was just like a really good first impression having you guys, to kind of start me off. But Angel, you, from there, you obviously went into middle school and into high school. And I'm wondering, not just your experience necessarily with me, but your experience growing up. Like, where are you from? I know, but for our listeners, where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in the South Bronx. I was mainly raised in John Adam projects, where I saw a lot of things that I don't think any normal kid should see. Saw people get killed in front of me. I'd see people shooting up. So I grew up in a pretty tough environment.
Going through what you went through, from living in the projects and roughneck school, and then going to another school that was even rougher than that, and then on to high school. How did it teach you to get by, but what did it also teach you to not do? Like, what were the lessons you're learning from going through all of that, both as far as inside the school and outside of the school?
Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna reel it back a little bit. So I come from a single parent home. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, my brothers also were caught up in the system. So I literally had no older male figure in my life at the time. So there was that, right? And then along with that, just growing up where I was growing up, you just naturally just get tough, especially if you're playing sports in the park. Like you have to defend yourself. So I was naturally just getting tough without even me realizing it. I'm sure there was tougher kids than me at the time, but I was never afraid. You know what I mean? And even with everything I've seen, I just had this toughness about me that I felt that would carry over, and it did. But one of the things that I took from the things I saw is like perfect example, seeing my brothers get arrested and having to do time because they had to sell drugs because we were really poor. I instantly knew that I would not be selling drugs because I knew where that would get me. My dad, who wasn't in my life, unfortunately chose or got caught up doing crack. And I always knew that he did not, I always knew he loved me, but I also knew that the crack got the best of him. And I saw what that did. Therefore, it made me realize I don't want to do crack. I don't even want to do drugs. And this is where I'm going to reel it back to you, Kurt. So fifth grade was the moment that I found a male figure that I can consider a mentor. And you were the person that introduced me to organized sports. You're the person that showed me that you cared about making sure that I was going down the right path. These were the things that I did not get as I was growing up. And for that moment, and I think, 10 and 11, that age, you start to recognize things too, right? Like you're starting to become more aware. I would go to games and everyone's family's in the stands but mine, you know what I mean? When I was playing football with you, you know what I mean? And there's nothing like my mom, because at the time my mom had just went through a stroke, you know what I mean? Like, she was also struggling. So, I've always I brushed that under the rug, but I was recognizing where I was struggling. I was recognizing why I needed someone. I needed that mentor, and I clinged to you at that time. And I remember I would talk to you. I was always engaging with you. And I don't know if you ever recognized that or noticed that, but it was something that I needed, and you provided that. Most teachers would probably brush me off, you know what I mean? Or just tell me what I want to hear and just keep it moving. But you invested time, not only with me though, you also did it with other students. And I think, that is what separated you from any other teacher I had for the rest of my life. You made me realize how broken the system is. And, I told you this, but like, I strongly feel that they need to do case studies on teachers like yourself. They really do. And the reason why is because, you're doing something different. I know there are teachers out there that are great, and I'm sure there were teachers that were along my path that were good. But there was something that you did different. And what that was to me was you paid attention and you invested your time within me and all of my peers at the time. And to go back to your question, I think growing up where I grew up made me a man way earlier than I should have, unfortunately. But no regrets, right? Because I think everything happens for a reason. And I probably wouldn't be here today because of the environment I grew up in. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the call with you. So those that are listening, I don't need to be a teacher's pet at this point. I could be real. This is just the honest truth. And I'm sure that those of you that are listening, that, you probably are feeling the same way. And trust me, when I tell you this, Kurt is different.
Well, thank you. Again, it was sort of when I started working with you guys, I was at a different point in my life, but I also came up, things were a little checkered in my past, let's say, and I don't want to talk too much about me. I want it to be more about you, but I could relate. I could relate to kids feeling bored in the classroom. I could relate to feeling like passed over, or not being appreciated. And sometimes I still feel like that, and I think with you guys, whether it was with you or with Jose or with Christian or with Reggie or with that whole group of fantastic people that I got to teach, and Melissa and Kobe and all of you guys. And it was just kind of like you appreciated me and I appreciated you, and I built off of that. And it really allowed me to like feel comfortable and know that I could set certain ground rules, and, it was okay. So how did you get involved in music? How did you transition over from just liking and appreciating music to actually getting more involved in the business end of it?
So music was something I knew I always wanted to be a part of. Like, from early on, one of my best friends, Christian, growing up, he would go to church. I would go to church with him. And, anyone that's been to a Pentecostal church, like, the music it's great. Like, there's live music all the time. And he grew a liking to the guitar. I grew a liking to the guitar. And, being that I was already falling in love with a band called Metallica, started a band. The unfortunate part is we had no singers, no drummers, and 3 guitarists. We knew that was not going to work. My friends also bamboozled me to believe I can actually sing, which was messed up because I really thought I could sing. And then fast forward, I had an opportunity to work at a major, did that for a bit, and I also was recognizing how that was not what I really wanted to do. I saw the unfortunate truth about major labels, and it made me almost just the fact that, like, a lot of artists are not really protected. labels tend to give shitty deals out. You know what I mean? They make them believe that they're signing them for this big amount of money when it's really a loan. Artists don't ever really own that money. And they utilize people like me who look like them to sign them. And so that didn't last long, and I ended up managing, and I started managing artists, which allowed me to really see the other side of the music industry, and allowed me to protect artists the way I felt they should be protected. As that went on, I was starting to grow a love for film, and it was weird because it was more about seeing people on set and seeing sets be made and just see the production of it. But one of the things I was not seeing was people that looked like me. Like I was struggling with that, and that was what put the battery in my back. That was kind of where I was just like, you know what? I don't mind changing gears and pursuing film. Like that's something that I would be willing to do. So I did some research, and that's exactly what I did. With that being said, it just led me to the path of a filmmaker. But this also was later in life too, right? So I'm 37. I started pursuing film at 30. But in the middle of that, because entrepreneur Andrew had so many businesses, I was building a fitness app. And I don't know if you ever remember this. I was promoting a lot of it. It was called All Free Fitness. And the idea was to find ways to, give people access to free fitness tips, meal plans, because I had gained a significant amount of weight in my 20s. And I remember joining the very first gym, which was Planet Fitness. And no knock on anyone that goes to Planet Fitness, but I think any gym that offers bagels and pizza, that's not the gym you should be going to when you're losing weight. I then started to recognize and realize that, gyms offer free trials that you could try their gym before joining them. And that's when the light bulb hit. And I was just like, you know what? I should create an app.
Like an information hub for fitness.
I'm starting, as you realize, I love helping people. So that was kind of where I was at. I was just like, let's help people lose weight and, save people money.
What's interesting too is that building from your earlier years, you're taking elements of this. So you were interested in sports and organized sports. So you take parts of that. You got interested in music early on. You took parts of that. And I think that's kind of something that, that's a life lesson for all of us. It's sort of like the paths we're on bring us to the place we're at this point in our lives, and we should be proud of that. We shouldn't have any regrets, like you said earlier, no regrets. And it's sort of build from those experiences, and hopefully you build it forward. You're able to build things to kind of, if not just help yourself, maybe just help others as well while you're and if you get well at the same time while you're doing it, God bless, and that's really worked out for you.
I agree. I think if you're not trying, you're failing, right? And I failed so many times, but I think it's good to fail. You need to fail in order to succeed. You need to get that taste of failure to understand and work harder. Yeah. I think you only fail when you give up. Yeah. You only fail when you actually stop trying.
Well, tell us about Hudsy a little bit. That big mic in front of you. I mean, that's really impressive. That's a big deal around here in the Hudson Valley. We live, Angel like me, at some point, we're from the Bronx. Anyone ever asks us, we're from the Bronx, but we live upstate now.
So 2016, we moved up here, and along the way, I met my business partner, Jesse Brown. So me and him came together, and we started to really figure this out. And what Hudsy became and what it is right now is we're building a platform that distributes and curates content within the Hudson Valley. There are talented people up here, but they struggle to get their work seen. And that's just not here, that's out everywhere. But why not start where we live, right? And figure out how we can expand this. So the idea was to try to create a platform that centralized all the content that's being made here and connecting that with the community. We haven't launched the site just yet. We were in beta a year ago just to show people what this could be. Now we're preparing to launch our actual app, which is considered an OTT app. That is what Netflix is. That's what Hulu is. And it's just going to allow people to have access to the amazing content that's here. And I think that's important. I think that, we really need to find ways to be telling the stories here in our community. And that's another thing. You have these big production companies that come to our communities that have no connection to our communities, tell these stories, and then they bounce. How about we have our community tell these stories? We're just really excited to get this ball rolling, and we're definitely getting there. We've been doing a lot of work in the community for the past 3 years, so it's about time.
But I noticed that there is a theme to the things that you've done, and it's kind of about creating a hub for other people to find appreciation and pursue their dreams and their passions, you know. And whether it was with the music or with your exercise, app, or now with Hudsy, just this idea of kind of like look at the voices out there. Even you helping me with this, I had this idea and I talked to you about it, and we talked for an hour plus, and it was like you were right in sync with me about taking local stories, taking local people, taking people like me and you from the Bronx, just people that went through this DOE system of education in the Bronx in New York City, and telling their stories, because there's a lot more success stories out there than there are failures. But we get caught up in just believing the stereotype about something. From you, I don't see anybody that looks like me behind that camera. It's my turn. I don't see anybody in this music business that's really promoting local. It's my turn. I don't see, and maybe that's what I'm trying to do too, in a little bit, just with my students, because time goes quick. And those kids that I taught when you were 10 or 11, you're a grown man. You're a very successful man now, and seeing my kids that I'm teaching now that are 12 and 13 and 14, a few years from now, they're in college, and I want to tell their stories too. And hopefully they want to share those stories with us so we can learn, and we can teach the younger kids that hopefully are going to watch this too. And maybe they can get some inspiration from all of this. And I feel like you very much are an inspiration.
So you ready for this one though? It's going to come right back to you though, Kurt. I strongly believe you instilled this in me. You know what I mean? I always had this drive, and maybe it's paying it forward. But I've always had this drive to want to help people. I wanted people that whenever I stepped foot into their life, that they understood that I was investing in them because I believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves. And, when I reflect back, there was only one person that wasn't a family member that I came across, and it was you. And it means something. It really does. It really means something to me, because to this day, I'm about that, right? Like, we have, one of the things with Hudsy is we have an apprenticeship program, and our interns, like, I don't want to speak for them, but I'm gonna speak for them because, they can tell you firsthand how much I invest in them, because I'm doing things that they think I'm crazy sometimes. Like, I have gear that's worth thousands of dollars, right? Like, to just give somebody a camera that's worth thousands of dollars to say, go and create something, and not ask for money, that to them is just like what's the catch? You know what I mean? Like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. You know why? Because I never had that mentor to say, give me a camera. And I was in your position at one point, and I wish that there was a me that would be doing this. And it's the same thing as being a father as well. I didn't have a father in my life, and everything I'm doing for my daughter is what I wanted for myself. And, granted, I'm not flooding my daughter with presents, right? I'm just being present. And I think that is so important, right? And I think it's so important with anybody that you invest your time to, like, just being present, listening, just doing what you feel you need to do to make them feel heard, elevate them. And this is from you, Kurt. Like, this, I know you're probably gonna be really humble right now, and those that are listening, you're probably like, yo, this dude is really being a teacher's pet, but it's the honest truth. Like, Kurt really, really impacted my life in so many ways.
Just to make it clear to some of the people, because we kind of glossed over a couple of things. After I taught Angel in elementary school, I still kept touch with him, and then I wound up coaching him in football. So he was the first person that I ever went from being Mr. Bascom to Coach Kurt. And by the way, when I coach, I've always been Kurt or Coach Kurt. I've never really went with Coach Bascom too much. So I went from Mr. Bascom to Coach Kurt with Angel, and then eventually it was just Kurt. And then at some point, about 10 years ago, I was coaching a flag football team, and I needed some help. And the first person I went to, and we played at Randall's Island. That's right. Was I went to Angel. And so in a way, Angel went from being, I went from him for being Mr. Bascom to Coach Kurt to fellow coach Kurt. So that's a big spot. And then a cool little story. As we're starting to wind down a little, several years ago I went to a Yankee game, and I was there with my family, and Angel was at the same game, and you had some nice seats, man. You had a box, and you were there with Milton.
I was,
yeah. And we were texting, so I knew you'd be there, and he's like, "Oh, you come up." I was like, "Yeah." So I came and I brought my son, and my son thought you were some sort of mogul because you had the cool seats and everything. And I was drinking like a simple beer, and you're like, "Nah, man, you don't have to have that." And I was almost like, "Wow, he's kind of almost making me look bad, but boy, am I proud. Look at my boy done good." And for my son, that was a big deal. Like, he knows you from that day. Like we're downstairs here. I'm downstairs here in my basement. And he's, "Oh, you gonna meet an Angel?" And I was like, "Yeah." So, and he's only met, I think he met you one other time besides that. But
no, I met him. I met him a few times. I actually, when I went to, I don't know if you remember this, I also been to your house. It was a while back though. I met him then as well too, but he was so young, I'm sure.
So that was a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. No, so yeah, you definitely don't remember me.
Yeah. But he knows you from that. So you've come a long way. And again, I'm glad you're the first interview that we're doing for this, whether this becomes a YouTube show or podcast, whatever it's going to be. Like, you had to be the first one because you're my first success story. You're the first person that I really felt like, all right, I'm on the right track, because you and that whole class, but you especially, you were sort of like, and again, I don't even know if you realize this, you were like the leader of that group of, fifth graders. Those guys hovered around you, and you did it real natural. It wasn't like, follow me, guys. It wasn't like you had an S on your chest. It was just like you had this cool temperament, this easygoing way. They appreciated that, and you appreciated that, and we all kind of moved on together. And again, we might only talk once a year, every 6 months, but to see that progression in you, for me, it's sort of like I'm on the side of Angels, and literally and figuratively, just seeing successes like you, come up in the Bronx and proving a lot of the people that think the worst about kids in the Bronx and the NYC education system, proving all those people wrong. That's kind of what we're about.
Not only honored, I appreciate all the kind words that you just said. I also still feel like there's a lot of work I need to do. You know what I mean? Like, although I might seem like the successful story, I'm still working hard. All I really care about is impacting others. I want to inspire the same way I've been inspired. Good. And that is what matters to me the most.
Yeah. Well, we're all, hopefully, we're never done until we're done. It's something I say to my classes, we're not done, we're just done for now. And, it's important that you aren't content. I'm not content. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not done. You're not done. Good. You're always trying to make yourself a little bit better, and then make others better along the way. That's kind of the trick, So,
can I ask you something though, Kurt?
Sure.
So,
go ahead.
First off, how do you still look the same? All right, that's one. Like, are you dyeing your hair?
No.
Or do you have plugs? Like, what's going on there?
It's all real. It's all real.
That's one. And two, like, how are you handling COVID? Like, as a teacher who I feel like prospers hands-on, right? Like, you're a person that, in order to get the Mr. Bascom experience, you have to be, like, in front of him. You have to feel his presence. You have to feel him running across a room. I know you don't break rulers anymore and shelves, but that was a thing back then, guys. If you don't know, my man used to break so many rules. And I know you used to get in trouble for that too.
Tell. You remember the bookshelf?
Yes, I remember that. My man broke a bookshelf. Did you pick it up and slam it? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it was. I had been with Angel's class for about 2 weeks, and I used to take like a yardstick. And back in the day, I'm 500 years old, man. We used to have chalkboards and yardsticks. And what you would do to get quiet, besides just yelling, is you would slap the yardstick against the desk to make that crack sound, and hopefully, startle everybody to get a little quiet. I had gone through like 5 yardsticks, so everything was busted up. And the kids had kind of learned things, but it was Friday, end of the day sort of a thing. Kids getting antsy, still the same way today. And my thing was like, I gotta get these kids quiet. I don't want to yell. We've been doing good. But I had this bookcase, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take that bookcase. I'm going to kind of pick it up and boom, just kind of thump it down to the ground and make a loud sound. And that'll startle them maybe just enough to, settle down. Like, hey, let's get quiet so we can get out of here, that kind of thing. So I picked up this bookcase from the edge and just thump. And when I thumped it down, it just fell apart, man. The furniture was mad old. But it looked like I was the Hulk, and I just wrecked this bookcase, man, because there was a couple books on the shelf and stuff, and it just got torn asunder. And you and the rest of the class was like, ah! And you all kind of just ran back to your seat. And for a minute, I was like, oh, shoot, oh, boy. And I was like, yo, I'm just going to go with it. And I was like, yeah, so I need you to be quiet. And you all like, all right. So,
well, yeah, we tried, because we tried to test you, right? Like, that was another thing. We knew Kurt was a sub. And let's be real, folks. All of you that are out there, that know when a sub comes through, y'all like, yeah, I'm going to run through this person. And that's kind of where we were at. We were like, we're going to run through this guy. We're going to wait for Ms. Martin to come back. So we didn't know into detail, like, what was really happening with Ms. Martin. Yeah. So we didn't know where Kurt stood. So we were testing Kurt. I'm not even going to lie. And my man Kurt was going Hulk smash on us. Never touched us though, but he would definitely, like, he saw what was happening and recognized it and took action immediately. He didn't bend at all.
We went back to
school. He did
bend.
Was the ruler is what he bent.
We went back to school that Monday, and the vice principal, his name was Acevedo. Yeah, and he came to me. He's like, Bascom, can I talk to you a minute? I was like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, he's going good over there? I was like, yeah, we're doing good, And he's like, did you bring a bookcase or something? And so apparently some kid told their parent, and their parent told some other parent, and some parent told him. And he's my boss. He hired me, And I was like, no, it was broken. So I just picked it up for a second, and it just kind of fell apart, and the kids freaked out, and I just kind of went with it. And he was like, oh, well, all right then. Well, then, okay. Because it didn't sound the way, especially it's all in the telling. I was like, I didn't want to make it sound like I went Hulk smash. I had to be like, oh, this is just an accident of it. Yeah. I just used the momentum of it, and it was a little of both, but it worked out.
So yeah, but I'm sorry because I'm obviously very long-winded. But so how are you adjusting with COVID and your students?
That's deep because it's funny. This might be a double. This is the first one, but it's worth it. I did a live stream last night.
Okay.
It was funny. I had all the gear set up, and Angel had an internet issue, so I was like, well, I got my camera thing here. I'm going to do a live stream. And a lot of the live stream was about me, because usually the live stream is a lot of my newer students. I'll get a few of the older ones, but usually it's the current crop that come. And I was asking them, like, what sometimes I feel like I'm working real hard, but I'm not getting the same out of you. You're not participating the same, or you're taking more time to get work done. And I'm just wondering why. Like, I just wanted to hear. And some of the students brought up, it's like, well, there's this fear of getting things wrong, and, and there's this fear of, like, I'm not there the same way, so I'm not connected. I get distracted. I look out the window. I hear something in the kitchen, and that's been the biggest challenge the last year. Just being home, or even now that I'm back, I've been back. I live pretty far from the school, but I'm one of 50% of the school that's back, and but being back and not having everybody there, the challenge is sort of like, all right, I have to reinvent a way to bring this material across, because to me, history sells itself. And all right, if I can't act it out, then this is where the multimedia comes in, and this is yet another way that a connection that you and I have, and that, all right, my slideshows, they pop. I try to make them they're not dull. I include video in there. I use music. I use video. I use movie clips. I use anything it's going to take to get through to my kids. And that started day one with you guys. Like, anything it's going to take to get through. So now if I can't physically engage them, if I can't look them in the eye, I can't alter my voice, I can't jump up on a desk or run across the room, well, then I better make sure the stuff that they are seeing is vivid. And then what has happened, and one of the cool things is that there are certain stories I really look forward to acting out. And I had students this year like pick up their laptop and just start, or iPad, and just start following me, and then so the kids at home could see what they're seeing. And now I didn't tell them to do that, so one of the things that's kind of working out in my favor a little bit is, one, I don't feel awkward behind a camera, but two, doing my best job to make the images on that camera pop, whether it's the text, the image, a video clip, a song, or just my voice and my mannerisms. doing whatever it takes. Is it as effective as the real thing? Probably not. But I'm trying like heck, I'm trying as hard as I can to sell it. And I think sometimes ultimately at the end of the day, the kids appreciate that, like you had said. And it sounds, I don't like talking too much about myself, but I'm passionate. I care very deeply about what I'm doing. And I think hopefully that comes through in the video. That's kind of what we're banking on here, for our little discussions we're having. So.
No, yeah, man, I appreciate you even just saying that. I think that it takes a lot to say. You know what I mean? It's real. COVID is affecting people in so many ways, and just knowing you and the type of person you are, just curious on how that has affected you, because I can only imagine how tough that is as a teacher to try to shift and pivot the way you typically teach to try to translate that through digital. Yeah.
It's not easy, but some of the perks, like I said, I've gotten pretty savvy on a laptop and, using Google Meet and different Google apps. I was home more for a period of time, so I always talk to my kids a lot anyway, but now it's sort of, as Dal's 14, my daughter's going to turn 12 soon, and being able to be around them more has sort of helped. I think they always did really well, but now they're doing even exceptionally well, and I feel that's a small part because both me and Jen are home because of all this. You try to find that silver lining, and maybe that's part. Angel Fonseca, Angel Gates, it's been an honor to have you here. We've had a long conversation. Maybe we'll break this into 2 conversations. Who knows? But I know I want to finish these conversations I'm having with former students with, if you could talk to the self that I first met, to you, whether that self is 11 years old or 14 years old, what would you say to yourself? What advice would you give to yourself?
I think the advice that I would give myself is I would just tell myself to just be patient, and live and learn, but make sure that everything that you do, that you're trying your best. And that would be what I would tell myself.
You said earlier in the show, you said believing is contagious, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And you're a living testament to that, man. You've done really well, and you're going to keep doing even better and better. So, Angel, thank you so much for all of this, for sharing some time with us, and hopefully sharing some knowledge with the young'uns that are going to be watching this as well.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Kurt. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. I feel honored being on your first episode. I'm looking forward to seeing this. And, man, kudos to you, man. I'm so glad that you're doing this. I think it's really important.
Thank you, man. That was really something. This was my first time doing this, interviewing somebody. I've been doing live streams and things like that, but to have an opportunity to speak to Angel, especially, he's really close to me, and share a lot of really good times and good stories, and get a lot of insight into him, as well into myself and the influence I've had. It's really humbling, and it was really cool. I hope you guys like it.